Call the meeting to order. This is the Buildings and Grounds and Transportation Committee meeting. We'll take roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Granlund?
Right here.
And Mrs. Livingston Matherly, I'm here as well. The notice of the meeting was posted on the district webpage, published as a legal ad in the Superior Telegram, and posted throughout the district according to school board policy. First item on the agenda is the Town of Maple Request Committee discussion on the use of the town roads. And present we have speaking some representatives from the Town of Maple, as well as, if needed, Mark Liebert, who is the county board chairman. Correct.
Okay. Well, my name is Marty Loxo. I'm the board supervisor of the Town of Maple. This concern that we're bringing forth is really on behalf of the village of Poplar as well as Maple, because the bus routing they've been using to stay off of Highway 2 up at the middle school has been to come down Weehee Road to Bayfield Road to Gonzorek Loop and then come out north of the school and then up here. I do have a written report from our foreman. I'll leave with whoever's the secretary.
I'll take that.
And I'm just gonna highlight part of that. The road they take, Gonzorek, none of the roads in Maple aren't paved. Those are gravel roads. They're built on a 3-inch base. They're not a heavy constructed road like Worry Road would be, where there's the gravel pit, a different structure to it. It's only about 19 feet wide for starters. But when they're leaving the school now, there's 17 buses leave, bus to bus, a parade of them that come through that Bayfield Road, Weehee, Bayfield, and Gonzorek Loop, and then meet up here. I assume to transfer or pick up more students. The dust in the summertime in the fall and this spring, a lot of complaints from people who live there. When all them buses get through, if it's not real windy, there's 30 minutes of dust floating around there. And that should be a concern for your buses too, when they're eating that dust following each other every day through that thing. But the road structure itself is getting pushed out due to the weight of all these buses coming through. When they have to meet or get near the side, the clay shoulders are pushing out. There's a 4-foot culvert, 48-inch culvert that we have scheduled for hopefully replacing in 2023. But with this excessive traffic, we might have to try to get that done sooner. At the corner, if you're familiar with Gonzorek Loop, there's a 90-degree turn about a half mile up the road. That's a blind corner. They've crushed in the end of that where the buses, predominantly buses, have been cutting that corner so tight that they've crushed the end of the culvert in on that one. Now, if you're gonna meet another vehicle of any size on that, that's what's pushing these shoulders up. You can't run down the middle of the road all the time. It's only 19 feet wide. It's not a typical road with 20 feet of travel space and then shoulders on it beyond that. Because they call it a 3/4 road. That's a lot of these smaller roads in Maple are. So the buses actually carry as much weight as a tandem semi does. They only have one axle back there and you load it up with students. You're putting a lot of weight on those. In the wet season, that road is going to start rutting out in the middle as well. Roger Colby, our road foreman, said to do a full reconstruction of that road could run over $200,000. So we're looking at significant maintenance just to keep it going, let alone the dust control. Now, I was told when I spoke at the garage, a lot of the concern on your behalf is congestion at the middle school with all the cars coming in as well. And, that's part of why the schools were put on Highway 2 is so you'd have a main thoroughway to put the buses on, not have to be going on the side roads. And using what you're using now is just, I don't know how we're going to come to a compromise on salvaging that road and minimizing the problems from it. One idea that came up was, why is it possible to have students, parents not able to use that middle school entry exit until the buses are done? Because that's where this congestion comes. It's not just the buses, it's all the cars. And then, of course, we talked about the speed limit through there is all 55. That's a whole different issue of safety concerns for the school. Now, when you are coming up here, you're ending up coming back to Highway 2 and they're going all their separate ways at this intersection of 2 and F. With that hillside and four-way stop there versus a three-way at the middle school, are you really in a safer position or not? Other than the speed limit being a little bit lower, 45 through there. If you're around this time of day, you're gonna see buses lined up. If you're coming with a car, you might be behind 6 buses waiting to get through that stop sign. So there's a safety issue there too. And what we had asked was if we can come to some kind of a compromise between us all. And, excuse me, possibly get on the school board agenda itself if we need to talk to them if it's a money concern from the school district side. The last thing I'd like to add to that is I have a suggestion for either you all or the school board. When school starts up, half of you get behind the last bus and follow them here to the high school. The other half of you leave the high school and meet them on Gonzarek Loop. And you're gonna see what a challenge it is to safely meet 17 buses on that road. Going through there. That's about all I have for it. I guess the rest of it is detailed in that report that our road foreman made.
Do you have a proposed solution for us?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a proposed solution for this?
Not use them roads.
Just don't use the road.
If
And,
they're-
and the reason I ask is, when I come on Highway 2, I don't care where I am on Highway 2, with my car, sometimes I'm waiting a long time, and if you have 17 buses all trying to get there to get on that road, it's gonna stop traffic completely in many respects, and the buses will sit there for a long, long time. There's a lot of traffic. I mean, I don't know where everybody's going, but there's a lot of traffic on that road.
See, I don't know if there's any better situation coming out here on F and 2 than there would be at the middle school, other than the cars.
It's a more of a controlled, thing. And the reason I ask if there's a solution is, I know they don't want to put the DOT. We'd have to look into that, but maybe there can be to get them onto the highway in a decent manner. Get some stoplights on the highway, and they're only operating for certain times of the day. I don't know if it's possible, but that would actually give the buses a chance to have the lights turn and let the buses get out onto the roads out there, and not have to do that. But that's a big, long process to go through
Sure,
that.
at a minimum, possibly caution lights that would be activated at different times. That might at least try to slow people down.
Because you gotta slow that traffic down, otherwise even a car getting out there is having a hard time.
Of all these buses, 17 buses that come over, they come over to the high school, so they're getting back onto Highway 2, many of them anyway, so they're, it's not like they'll
Right.
still be getting on Highway 2 from here, because they're picking up students at the high school. Is that right?
Right, that's the reason as I understand it, they're not getting on Highway 2 to come off and stop here, they're taking the back route.
But out of all those buses, they're not all going on Highway 2. Aren't some going this way and some going that way? On F towards the Bagman or,
Sure,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not
to
all
this
of them.
intersection.
right, so not all of them, but if we put them out that way, all of them have to get out on that highway. And some of them just for a mile so they can get off the highway. And like I say, I'm not saying that, the road is getting beat up. I mean, the road's getting beat up. I understand that, but I think somebody should probably do a study on it and come up with some better solutions instead of just saying don't use the roads.
Well, if you're gonna ruin the road, we're gonna have to close it.
Then they'll be stuck going up there, right?
Yeah, they will be stuck.
Yeah.
I have a question, 19 foot wide, what is this, is there state standards, or you mentioned a 3/4 road, that's,
Typically, a road lane is 10 feet wide with a 3 feet shoulder on each side. So if you were to look at a typical county F or 13, roads are designed on 2 10-foot lanes and 2 3-foot shoulders, 26 foot road. So you figure a bus is, mirror to mirror on a bus is similar to the semi, you're looking at over close to 8.5 feet. So if they meet another bus, they're on the shoulders, they're not on any of the gravel part of the road anymore. And that's what's pushing these shoulders out, the weight, they just sink them out and push it down. So unless you widen the road, and that's a tremendous project too, that's not a cost-effective solution.
And anybody else from the town of Maple, anything more to add? Or Poplar? Maple/Poplar.
I can't speak. I'm not on your agenda, so.
They are not recognized on the agenda.
So it's just Maple.
It's just Maple.
Maple can speak. Or-
He called after the meeting was posted and I explained to him. That's why Mr. Logso said that
It's on behalf
Poplar
of.
is here. I think
That's
you'd be able to recognize him as a speaker, but it wouldn't be part of the recommendations for the board.
I'm fine with recommending him as a speaker. Then
I mean, if the committee chair wants to recognize anybody in the audience, they can.
A lot of the question, does this happen to other towns?
There you go, there's.
I might defer some of the comment about the village of Poplar, the difference in the two roads, just from our standpoint, is those two are, and they're paved roads. The pavement stops at the Poplar Maple line and it turns Bayfield Road, turns into gravel. So they don't have the dust issues, but I'm sure they have other traffic concerns. And that's why Poplar is as well concerned about this. I was told the same route is planned for next year. That's pretty much why we're here. We thought if it was done and over this June, we'd work on repairing the road and be done with it. It was just a poor experience. But it sounds like it's a future plan to continue that same route.
The town of Maple already replaced one culvert that was collapsed. Buses. Up further, but we're gonna have to replace the one down by the corner. It's not wide enough for buses to go around that line corner, it's dangerous. It is dangerous. For anybody coming towards the buses. We were having a lot of complaints on every citizen on that road.
Right, my understanding is there's 5 homes on that road, is that correct?
Probably
Which road is that?
Gunjor.
That's good short.
Well, how would you spell that?
It's
No.
at the top of that list.
Is it?
SCH-OREK.
The citizen complaints, resident complaints have been primarily dust.
Oh, yeah, it
Because it's such a, but from a, like I said, a mechanical standpoint, what are your buses doing consuming all that dust when they follow each other once or twice a day? There's gotta be a concern for the quality of the buses. So, you have an input on it beyond the safety factor that you've been looking at.
You have every right, and it sounds according to Peggy, to recognize each
if
other.
we wanna, yeah, would you like to speak as a speaker, even though you're not on anything you wanna add about Poplar?
Poplar is very much closed, that's a blacktop road. It's only a 2-inch blacktop, and that's not made for that kind of traffic continuous. And they come down Weehee, they turn on the Weehee out of the school, they go down and turn on the Weehee at Bayfield, and they're cutting a corner. And it'll start taking the corner out eventually. The road is not designed for 17 buses, that much traffic, they have never a plan for that. It's gonna bust it out worse than just what normal traffic does. It's a lot of weight to put on that ordinance. You can see it. You got kids walking, my niece walks down there all the time, those buses just come, they're not the slowest drivers in the world.
Well, I have a question for Mr. Weezy. Is that safety and traffic flow? Are those the two main concerns that the decision made for this?
As a practical matter, it's made for one bus to go on, right? I mean, one bus should be able to travel on any road, or 3 buses should be able to go on every road. I've seen roads over the last 40 years, when you put dump trucks on them and you're hauling gravel, you can beat up a road fast. And 2 inches of blacktop won't hold anything because it's everything that's below there. But when we talk about how it's crushing the culverts, well, we could put, markers out there and keep the bus drivers, away from that edge, I mean, if we get one bus that cuts that, it's gonna crunch it. And then all 17 are getting blamed for one crunch, right? Not everybody's doing that. So there are training methods to get drivers and people to go in the center of the road or whatever. And I understand 17 buses, is a lot on one road. I mean, I don't know what we're gonna do to solve that, but I certainly don't wanna, see a bus get hit up in Grand Rapids. We saw a bus pull out just like that on the highway, and all that traffic is going, and they ran right underneath that bus and just smashed it all up. So the safety factor to me is actually higher than the gravel thing. Okay, I mean, if we got to come up with money to put gravel on a road, give you money to put gravel on the road more often, that's a better solution to me than just saying we're not going to send them on the road anymore.
But that isn't our responsibility
No,
to give gravel
Nope.
to the county. That's why we invited Mr. Liebert. Could you share with us how our money is dispersed to the county, from the county to the townships? Were there any COVID monies that were given to townships at all to assist?
You understand I'm in the middle of this, so we gotta be careful on it. So we checked with, first thing, I checked with the lawyers, both at the state level and the county level. And buses, fire implements, septic tanks, dairy trucks, propane tanks do some of the worst damage, but they're also exempt from weight restrictions. So there is no way that a town could, let's say, prohibit bus traffic on the road. Can't happen. So what you work up and what you work here is gonna have to be voluntarily, because they have the obligation of providing the road service that you can use. Years ago, I can remember Sylvester calling the town and said, hey, you gotta put some gravel on one of the roads because it's knocking the mirrors off our bus. And remember, we all pay for the damage to this bus as taxes. The taxes that town people pay to the school district is way more than they pay to the township. So, so we have to always balance them. And I understand we want maybe to put them on Highway 2, reduce the speed limit. I can also explain to you the process to reduce the speed limit. Probably not gonna happen. It's a very long process, and it isn't, they take into consideration the speed of the traffic that's going there. They monitor the traffic during the day, and if 80% of the cars on the road are going at 60 miles an hour, that's the speed limit. 55 is gonna stay there. If the cars are going at 40, because they are already recognizing so many dangers, they'll probably drop the speed limit. But if the traffic flow, the normal flow through there stays at 55, it's very hard to reduce the speed limit. So that's kind of a hard deal to work on. And I understand, as an ex-bus driver also, that COVID kind of put you in a bind. You used to send 5 buses to the high school, 5 buses or 6 buses to the middle school. So you didn't have that 17 buses. Now because of separation, you're sending big groups of buses because you have each bus has to pick up its own kids. That's, I think, where part of this has come from. So now, you got Maple and Poplar and Amicon. I mean, everybody who has a school bus in them has got an interest in, I hate to say it, who's gonna help us pay for the roads. The towns get money from the state to maintain the roads. And it's vastly under what it actually costs to maintain them. You guys know you're not getting funded exactly what you need to run the school. Towns are in the same predicament. We got a boost about 3 years ago. It was well overdue. It doesn't cover the inflation. Gravel is way outpaced it. School buses, we did a study at the highway department. We were debating logging and on town roads, logging trucks and the rest of them. And they are right. School buses are probably as bad as any vehicle on the road for damage. And the problem with a school bus is it goes there 5 days a week, whether it's spring, summer, fall, whatever it is, they gotta drive down that road. If it's muddy, people avoid that road. School buses don't have that option. They gotta go down there, pick up the kids on the road. So you're in kind of one of those deals. Now, go to COVID money. The extra money that the towns received, we got done, what, 60 grand, I think? Well, 60 grand, not a lot of money. $60,000 doesn't buy their yearly supply of gravel, period. Now, they probably can't use it on gravel, except maybe if the cause of their damage is due to COVID. You know, and you can say, we wouldn't be on these roads, they could say, the traffic on the road is due to the increased, danger that COVID caused, and now that road is being damaged. They probably could spend their money. But, they're also on town board, also, they got a lot of other things to spend that money on too. You know, so we're all kind of in that predicament of what do you spend it on, who do you spend it on? Do they have the right to close the road? No. Could you guys give them money? Sure, but remember, everybody else is standing in line for that same money, and I know you guys have a hard thing. And again, I don't know what it would cost, you know, to rebuild the road, John, it's gonna cost, I don't know, $200,000, that's probably too high, but, you know, to throw roughly, 4 inches of gravel on there, how many miles is it, I mean, it'll cost them a lot of money. More money than they've got in their road budget, probably for the year, I hate to say that, but they have to rebuild the road, everybody says, why don't you have blacktop road? Because it costs $500,000 a mile in some cases, $250,000, it isn't gonna happen. Poplars on the other end, they got 2 inches of blacktop, it'll fall apart, continuous use falls apart, it's just the way that, the town and villages have responsibility to do the roads, yes, that's why they get paid money from the state. Can they keep you off the roads? No. Good neighbor, now you got other problems, can you change the routes, can you go back, are you gonna be able to go back to pre-COVID days where you only got 5 buses over here instead of 17? I don't think that's gonna happen the way it sounds anyway. So you're kinda in that predicament, kinda like when the county, when the Act 10 went through, and the county looked at, all right, now we don't have any unions, we can treat our employees any way we want, but here's what we're gonna do, we're gonna try to do it this way. You're in the same list, you can do anything you want, you're running 50 buses on there a day. You wanna figure a way to maybe figure that's not as bad for the town of Maple, the town of our village of Poplar, so, but that's the legal authority, I guess, on where you're at. I don't know if you got any other questions, but I'm glad to answer if you do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Marty, you said our other option is to go before the school board. You have the school board. 1, 2, 3, there's another school board member right behind you, another school board member. You have 5 of the 7. We are all listening. We are. It's gonna take some discussion by the board, but I'm comfortable that you have more than the majority already here.
What would happen if, what I'm hearing now, the COVID issue with all these buses, if, as one thing what I mentioned, you prohibit passenger car traffic during the window of whatever, 15, 30 minutes when these buses are leaving. And maybe half of them could go on Highway 2 with the middle school, or elementary or middle school, and half of them come the other direction. That would at least minimize the traffic on our town roads.
Prohibit them from what roads?
I think the congestion I've heard is at the elementary or middle school, wherever all the cars are. And don't let them mix in with these buses trying to leave. If they're gonna come pick up their kids or students or whoever's in these cars, have them have to sit there for 15 minutes until the buses get out of there. I don't know if there's a way to enforce something like that.
Well-
But that's been part of the issue from the get-go, as I understand it, is many, many more parents picking up children nowadays.
Because we asked them to.
Yeah.
So that we could lower the amount of students on our buses, so that we could follow the CDC guidelines of the social distancing. So our parents came to our call last year when we said, can you help us figure it out, carpool, so that you can pick up these kids? Otherwise, they are right next to, there's no social distancing.
So that's
it was
what
a-
she
it was
created a new problem, is what it did, with the congestion.
But even besides the schools, if you come onto Highway 2 from the north on D or P and try to make a left turn, not by the school, just on D and P, it takes a long time during that time of the day.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, you can be there for a long time, and if those buses are delayed, then it goops everything up here as far as getting the kids home in the
Sure, and you see that here too. I
Right.
sat behind buses a long time right here, waiting for them.
I'm not talking about buses, I'm talking about just normal people coming home from
Sure.
work.
But and then we talk about the safety factor, you get people antsy, and now it's like, I'm gonna go for it, and you get people taking some chances that they shouldn't take, bus drivers and, passenger cars together.
I'm not convinced this is a safer intersection than the one at the school. That's a T intersection, this is a four-way. So actually you have one more direction of traffic to be looking at. Along with that grade, you're coming, if you're westbound, you're coming down that hill.
Aren't there more lanes up here? I mean, wider lanes? We got
But
a
it's
little bit of
also
a turning
45
lane.
miles per hour here at
Yeah.
50,000.
It's
There, the
slower and
speed limit is.
it seems like down there, there's a little, they put in a wider, passing lane. It's not very long. I mean, it's not really as good as this, I think. This is a much better
Because
intersection.
even if you come on a two, if you come in a two from the middle school, then from over here, you're still gonna go, most of the bus will still go on here, then they'll be going twice on the highway.
Yep.
I don't think we really have a solution
No,
here
there's no, I don't see
right now. I mean, there could be one.
We
Reducing
certainly
the
are.
amount if we could.
We certainly should be open to whatever, I mean, if you can come up with a good answer, a good solution, I mean, why not? But
Not just you, I think, not just them, but I think we, I think
Yeah.
if we can come up with something. We wanna work with the towns, you know.
absolutely.
That would, to
question
me,
was
would
that.
be a start on a solution, if there'd be a way to not have all 17 of them going, literally a parade, they're bumper to bumper going down the road. You could take a video of that, just sit there, that's how they know there's 17, these people live there counting them when they go down the road. I don't know if that's a safety factor, to get half of them or part of them up on, over there and half of them here. They all end up having to be here, otherwise they wouldn't be on those roads, as I understand
We can't have the staggered start times and stop times. I mean, obviously kids get out of school when they get out of school.
Okay, anything else to add? You guys can think of?
You're talking about that COVID money, our clerk was just on some meeting all week. Their advice from that COVID money was don't spend it that much yet. The government hasn't decided what we can spend it on yet, they says don't spend it that much. And it sounds like gravel is not gonna happen.
I think we got to come up with a solution apart from that.
that. Well, we too are open to suggestions, there's no easy solution to this, but we certainly wanted to know that it's more than a complaint, it's a legitimate logistic concern for the town, financially and somewhat health-wise for the people, and the safety factor for all the kids. And, there's, everything has to come together on this.
Is there,
Well, one of the things though, I mean, just talking to some people about the dryness that we are experiencing now. Generally, we don't have quite the dust problem that we do now because, we've had some summers where we didn't go 3 days without rain. Every farmer knows that. But maybe one of the solutions is working with the county or somebody to get a water truck to just go up and down the roads once in a while to keep that down, to keep that part of it down. Maybe.
That's dried out in half a day.
Right. But I mean, at Minnesota Power, we used to have to run them a lot. You'd run them, and the buses only make a couple trips though, so they only have to do it before the buses go, and then they won't have to worry about it for a while.
It's in the evening, it's never during the morning that this
Yeah.
parade is.
Yeah, so if they do it once
One time a
before the
day.
buses all make their parade, then it would be done for that day.
I know what the county's gonna tell you.
Well, the county's gonna tell the town or whatever, I guess.
I don't think we have an answer. Is there,
Today we
would
don't.
it be possible to have an ad hoc committee comprised of
Absolutely.
school board members and maybe town representatives and the transportation director to try and come up with some
I like
solutions?
We would certainly be open to trying to participate in some kind of a solution committee.
Because
That can be what we can move forward then to the remainder of the board at our 5:00 meeting, is that we would recommend that we have a side, if that's okay with you as well, Brian?
is that what an ad hoc committee is?
It would.
You said it, I don't know what
I
it
don't
is.
know.
I thought it was a fancy name, it sounded
It
good.
sounds pretty fancy. It's short for something. I don't know. But I think what it is, we have different groups come together and try and come up with a solution.
We can definitely all agree, we have to look at it, we all agree on that, I think that we at least have to take a look overall at, who knows what we'll be able to come up with, but if we have a committee, more meetings, those are always fun. So that will be our recommendation then, and then we can decide, who wants to be a part of that.
Well, and the towns, come to us with some solutions, give us some options on what instead of just saying, don't use the road, come up with 2 or 3 different solutions if you can, you know, I mean, I don't know, maybe there aren't good solutions.
And I think we did,
Why does the transportation come talk to us before they started doing that? Cold shoulder to start doing it. That's what really upsets.
Well,
They're always being, why, when 17 buses driving down.
I can't speak for them, but it's a town road, so, I mean, you have to think that it's open to use, you know, I mean,
Common sense.
I don't know why, I don't ask for permission to go down my road or whatever, and I understand what you mean, because it's a lot of buses, but it's a town road.
You know, interesting, like you said, you can't legally close a road. Boy, there's a fine line. If a road is damaged in the spring, wet so bad we can't run it, we can close a road. We do that on Blueberry Road almost every year, and we're in the process of rebuilding that road. It's even closed to school buses because they'll get stuck in there. So we literally close the road. It's like the Ozark Loop. They can go in from 2 different ways, so nobody's locked out of traffic. I wouldn't see that as a vengeful way to close the road, but you know, we have an obligation too. It's not safe to drive on that. We couldn't leave it open for the buses to go on.
Brian, Mike, anything else to add before we?
So we're gonna recommend an ad hoc committee.
We figure out what ad hoc means.
Well,
Needs a
that's
committee
It's a
outside the
subcommittee.
committee.
committee outside the committee, comprised of people that aren't necessarily on school board.
And it's only meant for one single purpose and it disbands as soon as that purpose is done.
I would just like to know that how are we going to, the town chairmans, I have your number, emails and stuff. Maybe they can get a hold of me and tell me who will be on that committee and then we can bring it to you.
Sure.
Right?
My suggestion would be Brian and Mike and Lester serve on that committee. Just say it.
That should be a couple people from this committee.
Okay, that sounds good. All right,
Well, thank you for your time and your attention.
thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice to meet you.
Next item of business, clarification on bus drivers' bonuses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark,
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Did you wanna start that out, Paul, or?
I
Or
guess
did
answer
you
that
want-
to Dr. Crony.
Okay. Okay. You each have the draft that we came up with in front of you. That's what I'd like to do.
No, oh yeah, they have the new language draft.
New language draft. Okay.
And the memo that explained from both.
Right,
because-
April 21st, there was a memo, and the memo had everything outlined about the bonus. It's highlighted in yellow. Bus driver signing bonus for a new applicant that is employed by the district but needs to be trained is $400. A new applicant that has bus driver experience and does not need training is $600. So then we took the opportunity to take that former paragraph and turn it into bus driver signing bonus eligibility
For substitutes,
for,
that's what we're doing.
right, this is all has to do with substitutes. So the first bullet, for a new applicant hired but has never worked for the district who would require training, the bonus is $400. And then the second bullet, a new applicant hired and has bus driver experience, but has never worked for the district, who would not need training, is $600. Now, one of my main reasons to not pay a bonus for our past drivers is that the board also approved a minimum of pay for 2 hours when called on a run, so a driver can work 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon and get paid for 4 hours at their exit rate. One of the former bus drivers that wants to substitute has an exit rate of $28.24. A regular substitute is paid $22. I really feel we have done a beautiful job of encouraging our past drivers, honoring them at their salary when they exit. Because when I first arrived here, they would have dropped right back down to the entryway, the sub rate. They're not. I mean, 28, 24 is substantially higher than the 22 that it would have been, and 22 in itself is a great rate. But I do believe that the new language really helps clarify it for Lester to be able to implement this. And I'm completely comfortable that even though this is the third time it's come back to our board, it obviously needed to come back to our board, but are you comfortable with the new language in green that is there?
Okay, a couple of questions, because this is where I wanna make sure there's clarification.
Okay,
So, let's say we have a employee from Northwestern who's retiring, not as a bus driver, let's say a teacher or a custodian. Do they get the new sign-on even though they were an employee of our school? Is this only for past bus drivers that do not get the bonus? Or is this for any Northwestern employee?
the way I would envision it, it would be for bus drivers. Because they've already been serving as a bus driver for our district. If a para were coming back and we could encourage them to enter the field of bus driving and start all fresh, et cetera, I would see, yes, they could and should.
Okay,
Get the
now
bonus.
what if I'm a bus driver who retired 4 years ago at $23? I'm not gonna get the bonus?
You would not get the bonus because you were a bus driver. But for example, a bus driver that left at the, $23, but now there was this raise of the 2% and then another $5.02.
Right.
This particular driver is gonna get that.
So it's effective for the drivers who are recently retiring. But if I'm a bus driver who
Even 4
retired
years-
10 years ago,
10 years
I'm
ago,
not
they
gonna
still
get
were a
bonus.
bus driver in our district. So the way I would look at that is they did drive bus for us before, even though it's 10 years ago. They
so
would
they
not,
would get paid the 22 whatever and then no bonus.
no, they would, even at 10 years ago, well, probably at 10 years ago, 22 is still higher than what they were getting. They would
Right.
get their exit rate, if their exit rate was anything higher than 22.
Okay, so I think the reason why we were bringing it back was for clarification of the questions I'm asking.
Perfect.
Okay, so that we have an understanding that because may have some past employees that may want to drive substitute bus and they may wonder, am I going to get the bonus?
Right.
It needs to be very
You're
clear.
saying they're not going to.
They would not if they were a bus driver.
Yeah, but I disagree with that because I'm saying, once they're divorced from us and they're gone, pick the number, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I mean, at some point, they're divorced from us and they're on with their lives and we're trying to get subs back. And this is an incentive to get people to be bus drivers again or be subs again. And
Our pay did that. Our pay did that.
Right.
We've got 5 new drivers and we've got 3 subs.
right, it worked great. But now we're selectively saying, but you drove for us 10 years ago, we're not gonna give you the bonus. I think we're just gonna create more, pain by doing that. If we have to say, once they cut the tie with us and they're not employees, and like I say, maybe it's a year or 2 or whatever. Certainly, if somebody 10 years and then say, I wanna go back into bus driving, why wouldn't we wanna incentivize them with that bonus, just like everybody
So if
else?
you wanted to amend this to state if you drove under 10 years ago.
Pick a day,
Gotcha.
2 years or greater, or pick, I don't care what we choose. They're out, they're gone, they're history, and I think if we're looking to get people to come back into the fold and do this, why wouldn't we? That's my opinion.
What you're indicating is they're not really history in the fact that we're paying them
We paid for their
$6,
training.
we're paying them $6 more than a sub bus driver, for instance.
Yes.
So they're not really separated because we're still recognizing their years and paying them more.
And gave them the increases.
That's what she's.
Okay, and that's a good clarification. So if they've been gone for 10 years and they come back, they're at
This
a
person was
different-
gone for 4
Okay,
and is getting 28, 24.
So you're saying they're getting more than a new bus driver?
Absolutely, new bus driver getting
Okay.
22 bucks an
So I
hour.
think-
I think we are totally compensating them appropriately.
Okay.
But they don't need another 600.
So that's a clarification. I didn't know. I thought they would be coming in at that lower
No,
lower rate. So
no.
even though they've been gone for 10 years, they come in at a higher rate than the being people?
Yep.
Okay, that negates the whole thing then. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding.
They would come in at,
They'll come in where they exited,
Where
and
they,
then they would have gotten $5.02. This person wasn't working for us, they subbed last year, and the person is gonna get $5.02 and the 2%.
thank you for clarifying it. That straightened it for me. Also, you mentioned this is all subs, right? It
Well,
doesn't-
bus driver,
Oh, that was the memo that came before was all drivers. Lester doesn't really distinguish, and it's been difficult. In our office, we distinguish between substitute drivers and bus drivers, but in Lester's world, everybody is just
Yeah.
a bus driver.
Right.
So it's been hard for us to separate because there's different,
Well,
Standards for
when I
both
look
of
at
them.
this, the word sub is only in one little thing on the
right,
bottom.
right. And that was part of the confusion.
Yeah.
That's why we brought it back again. So, you know.
okay, so now we all are on the same page. So if a bus driver wants to come back and sub because they left they get their exit rate,
yes,
they don't get the bonus.
that's correct.
Do we want to have a cutoff of how long ago? Because what if I drove bus 15 years ago? I probably made $10, $12 an hour.
You're gonna get the
Then you
22.
get the 22, but still no bonus.
I think in the long run, getting that higher rate than 22 is much more advantageous.
Much more advantageous than $600.
With
Yeah,
their exit
right.
rate, okay.
Yeah.
And it does not apply to, say, a teacher who retires
No.
because they be still, okay. So
No, it was never meant,
that actually, we didn't have that super clear. We kind of talked about it, but I don't know that we addressed all, so now at least we're all on the same
Yeah.
page and it's in, right, okay.
thank
All
you.
right. Any
I'll
other
send that to
comments
you.
on that?
So our consensus is forward this.
Yes.
Okay, and we end of discussion on that,
Yeah.
okay. Next item of agenda,
Excuse me, just we have to make sure that when you talk to the board that this is the language that's gonna be used. You're gonna recommend that the clarification,
Yes.
you're gonna want to read that, so that should be
highlighted clarification.
Perfect, thank you.
Next item of agenda is the Northwestern Elementary School construction project.
Okay, that's for converting the state's class to standard type of classrooms. The prints, the design, structural, all that information was sent to the state a number of weeks ago. They haven't sent it back, but we can, they will allow us to start the demo anyways. That's the biggest part of that project is demoing that stage. The estimate is that there's 2,000 yards of sand under that stage, because of the size of it. And that, and then all the concrete cutting that's to go with it. We've gotten bids, we invited potential contractors in for the different components of that, the demo, electrical, plumbing, and some other ones. We've got 2 or more bids, competitive bids on every contract item. One of the things we did though, in telling the bids, they're coming in total higher than we wanted. So what we've done is we've redrawn the prints and taken out a structural area that was gonna be a mezzanine above the classrooms for accessing the HVAC plus with some storage room. The structure of doing that was really expensive. It was over, I'm gonna say over $130,000 to do that, pulling that back out and looking at possibly cutting 2 doorways in off the roof so they can get in there. And then also having the ability to bring a smaller man lift possibly too instead. Because we have to service the area owners every so often, so. But we needed to cut that cost out. We're looking at the stage lighting in there. We have a local consultant who's retired now, looked at it with Mr. Hinsman, and that's a doable project is to recover that stage lighting that's in there, move it to the middle school.
Cool.
Because it's still good stuff.
Good.
And I believe there was 40-some circuits. At NES, there's a lot less than that, maybe half that at the middle school. So they don't have to pull out of wires or anything. You can reuse the wiring, through the conduit, and simply, rejoin the circuits up to the lights. So that's a good project, but it's got to be out of there because we're going to start the demo in the next 2 weeks. So
Do we have a place to store that
What?
until it's out of there?
the lighting, we'll find a place.
Oh.
The lighting has to be, that's another project on its own. So
Okay.
Mike,
I gave her a thumbs up.
Mike,
Give me a thumbs up, I'm good.
yeah, you can give a
I'm
detailed
starting that first project.
story on
Okay.
that. So we are looking somewhere in the range of 500 to 550,000 for that project. And we can use our ESSER 2 money for that, which was cut back a little bit, but I believe it's at 512,000 now. So
Can I ask a stupid question?
there's no stupid questions.
Oh yeah, that's what they all say. 2,000 yards of sand in there?
They said 2,000 or 200, I think so. I think they said,
Can we donate it to the
well, yeah.
Town of Maple?
trade it?
Yeah, I think that's, they probably.
You gotta haul it somewhere.
No, we'll haul it on site. We're not gonna spend money to haul it off the roadways. We wouldn't want to muck up anybody's roadway.
Just saying.
Yeah, they could come pick it up.
Just saying.
So,
Trade them.
okay, that's so much for that project, and it's gonna, our hope is to have it walled in by the start of school, so we can do all the finish work inside. That's gonna be a push because of all that sand's gonna come out there. One concrete buggy at a time or
Well,
something,
yeah.
get it out.
Concrete broken up makes good riprap too.
Yeah.
So,
Other projects, the carpeting is done on the classrooms
Yes.
down there. That's nice stuff. So we've got 7 or 8 left in the next year. Then that school will be fully carpeted. NES South windows, that's an August project. Those windows are being built right now. We've got some water system upgrades to our tank system at the middle school, and also to the Alex well. Change the old style tank out to a bladder type system so it doesn't waterlog. The NES stage, we talked about that. Gym floors have been refinished now. We've got, I'm waiting for a roof report on NES from Jamar, and that'll be a future discussion and cost item. I'm have to schedule a water system inspection with DNR. They'll go through all of our systems. I've got 3 open custodian positions, interviews for 2 of them this week, so that's a good thing. We got a number of applicants. So, what else? We got an outfit called KFI Engineering that's doing district-wide recommissioning of all of our HVAC, and I'm looking forward to a lot of recommendations from them. So that's the bigger stuff. Is little stuff too. Custodians are either on track or ahead of the game.
Okay, great, thank you. Nothing you need us to discuss or talk about, just kind of a FYI status.
Moving along.
Good, great. Next item,
Before we move to adjourn, can we talk a little bit about the ad hoc committee? Is it-
we can, but we have one more item yet.
I got
He went
Oh,
along.
you did, you
I
included
kinda
all that, I'm sorry.
Morphed into.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
He thought you said 6 and 7.
good. I was like, well, I didn't see anything
Do
else.
you have anything else you want
Okay.
to summer?
There's
Okay.
one more thing on item, and that's adjournment, so I mean.
I know, that's why I was trying to catch you before that.
Yes, we may discuss the committee.
All right, are you okay, Mike? Are you okay, Brian?
Yeah, and my wife will be thrilled that I'm willing to go on another committee, so yes.
Mike, are you okay?
I have it. Sure.
And then
Did you want an administrator on there?
I was just gonna talk to Paul.
Okay.
Just
They're looking at you.
Yeah.
No eye contact.
Well, Lester,
Keep your head down.
Well, of course, but he's
I
just
tried,
saying, but
learned.
Paul, are you okay with serving on the committee?
That's what I
I think we would be good with holding them during the workday because
Yes.
that's,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing is when everybody's available.
Correct.
I know, Mike and I have very, very busy retirements.
Extremely.
Oh, jeez.
And then obviously Lester. Okay, so 4 of you is okay?
And
All right,
are we gonna invite, what towns do we invite?
Poplar and Maple. It's the meeting right here.
I drove down the Gun Short Road at lunchtime.
You wrecked the road.
I understand their concern. That road is so narrow, it wouldn't take much for the buses to squash out the clay on the edges. Then if you had to try to build it up, you would have to spend a huge amount of money to lift that whole, get enough gravel lift. You have to use heavy rock and then build it up and,
Pushed up concrete from the stage.
yeah, eventually, what he's saying is true. It's gonna squash out the gravel, then you'll get down to the red clay,
You know,
and then the road will be totally unfixable. Well, it'll be fixable, but you'll literally wreck the road. You can see that it is gonna happen if we keep doing that.
So we should get the contact numbers for those towns.
Right, Peggy already
And
has
I've
them.
already got
You'll
that.
completely understand what he's talking
Oh, yeah.
about after driving down.
I have
Like, in- when they talk
Well,
about
it's
black,
perfect right now, but that's because it's real narrow.
when they talk about blacktopping roads, like I say, blacktop means nothing. It's everything that's below it.
You don't have the sub,
Everything below it will.
you don't have the subgrade, it's gonna squash out.
Go.
Okay, and then you guys will decide with Peggy on a date and so forth?
That's where I was coming from right now, trying to, sometimes you guys are like herding cats, truly.
Yeah.
If I've got you all
On
right
purpose.
here, on purpose. But if we have to have enough time for Peggy to post as well. So where I'm coming from is it possible, like Tuesday, August 10th, that allows enough time for Peggy to post? It's a day after the board meeting, so Paul would have his reports all done, because that was the day before. Is that okay?
August 10th, fine,
August 10th? And is, when you golf,
every day, but.
Yeah.
every day.
No, I'm just kidding.
But
Yeah, August.
It's the day before my 42nd anniversary, but it's the day before.
Got it.
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right, Paul, would a 9 o'clock be too,
No, that's,
that'd be all right?
yeah, whatever you can do.
Okay, so 9 o'clock on Tuesday, August 10th, for the subcommittee ad hoc,
If
if they can make it, right. But then at least Peggy's got a date and a time to reach out to them, including Lester.
Did you say 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock.
Do we want to use because I do have to say why we're having a meeting, discussion and use of town and village roads,
Perfect.
discussion and use and repair?
No.
Nope,
No.
nope.
Thank you. Of use of school buses on town and
Right,
village roads.
right.
Buses on town.
there's gotta be one particular item.
Right,
Just one.
Alright, and
thank you so much for looking.
yep, anything else on the meeting? You guys got your date, you wrote down the date and everything, okay?
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Yes. Alright, meeting adjourned. 4:50.